Holy mackerel. This is one of those. And I got to warn you. I'm warning you right now. I'm protected. See? I'm protected. I put together. This is strong juju, brother.
See, that's funny because my wife is also a Wiccan. And many people don't realize that I have multiple beliefs. So, and they are philosophies. Now, my character portrays something much darker, much more ancient, because I'm a huge fan of, we've talked about before, of Ahriman and, kind of like that ancient god of chaos, destruction, that kind of thing.
Well, he was also a god of rebirth and renewal.
Exactly.
He had, and that's what caught my attention was, you're very theatrical, right? You have the whole thing down. But the thing is, Ahriman, and it was good for the reminder, but oh no, that's actually kind of real. And there was more to that song, because if you recall, I wasn't really a fan of that song.
Originally, yes.
So, because you're bringing in so many disparate elements, right? A little bit outside the traditional stoner doom.
Right.
A little bit, blackened, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. But that end and that crushing guitar.
Yes.
I mean, you and Hail the Void, I put on equal measure on that guitar tone. I do. And it's funny that that's your son.
We don't advertise because.
Oh, did I blow it? I can take it out.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine because I've spoken out about it in other interviews as well. So, see, Iron Serpent was born out of my transition from leaving Black Tar Superstar as their drummer, and no longer being with them. And the story of this EP is pretty interesting because the tracks that you're hearing were what myself and Death Slinger, the guitarist from Black Tar Superstar, laid down for what was supposed to be the third album.
Okay.
And when they decided to go down to a three-piece, since I came out here to Nebraska, they decided that we got to a level internationally where we pretty much could tour wherever we wanted to.
Right.
And they didn't want to do that. They want to stay Ohio strong, and that's fine. Some bands get that way. And I wish them all the best. But these tracks were laid for that third album, and upon my transitioning out, they decided to scrap everything that was recorded. And I managed to get these tracks back. And they were laid with Slinger playing guitar. So we already had that. We just had to add the bass and the vocals to it. And I kept them because I was proud of what we did. I thought the tracks were really good. And they would have been, a great record, I think, all the way around. And Slinger felt the same way. And one day he just messaged me out of the blue and goes, "Hey, remember those tracks?" I said, "Yeah." "You mean the dead ones?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, man." And he's like, "Well, I put some vocals on it, and I did some remixing and did threw on the kind of like a dummy bass track." And I was listening to it, and I said, "This is how it should have been, very raw, not overproduced." Because the way we had done the previous album, which was called The Black Flame, it had a lot of layering, lots of guitar tracks over guitar tracks, and some stuff vocally as well. But the stuff was just the way he sang the lyrics to Ahriman that I had written for that session. I was like, that's punching it home exactly the way I had envisioned it. Because I'm the drummer. I can carry a tune, but I do not sing. That is not my thing.
and you're like segueing beautifully into a lot of the questions I have.
Oh, awesome.
Because let's take a band like King Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big fan.
The drummer, Scott, is behind, a lot of the management of the band, the merchandising. And I love seeing him back there. He's an example.
Sure.
I'm seeing another band that I can't say I discovered, but I was one of the first, Evil Leaf here in who have gone, boom. They're doing great. The drummer does the production. He and Wes, the guitar player. So I'm seeing a trend where drummers are, it's like we got over what happened with the Eagles, and the drummers are back, baby. They're running things, large and in charge.
I was pretty much behind all the marketing for Black Tar Superstar. I put all the promo videos together. That was one of the great things about the COVID era was I got to learn a lot more technology. So once I started kind of getting the imagery together, there's a big horror element to a lot of everything that I do, obviously.
I hadn't noticed.
And Black Tar was like the very first band that I was able to project that and use it because our music really fit together with like some of those classic horror films. And it first came out in our first video in Hail to the Succubus. This character, my character, was actually created back when I played for a band called Twisted Asylum. And I know they're still around. And they all have their own characters and stuff like that. And I had to come up with one once I joined the band. And
sure.
So I just kind of came up with Reaper. Because they were like, well, what's your name going to be? I'm like, Reaper. And they say, why? Because when I play for the crowd, it's as though I am taking their souls.
That's awesome.
It just stuck. And everybody from here, I was no longer Steve anymore. Who the fuck is Steve? Who knows?
Right.
They just call me by that. So
we haven't seen a lot of character driven. I mean, we could argue that Marilyn Manson to a point, but
yeah. He stole from Alice Cooper.
Oh, yeah, big time. But it is interesting to see a more theatrical character presentation. And you seem to fit that mold. I was under the impression that every single aspect of Iron Serpent was meticulously planned. And you're telling me that it's actually a happy accident and this happened and then when they came together and because you're the whole package, right? You've got the characters. Your PR is second to none. It's almost peerless.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And you just hit all the right notes. You have your own podcast. There's a continuity to it. So there is a plan, but you really are taking chaos and turning it into a thing.
Absolutely. I know it's kind of like not the norm in doom metal at all. I mean, obviously, doom metal is very occult driven.
It can be, not always, right?
And this is just something that could have been when I was with Black Tar, but they didn't want any of that. Me and Slinger both had our own things going on.
Okay.
He doesn't go to the extreme that I do, but he does more of like a Viking war paint because that is the path that he is on. And that's totally fine. I love it. Like I said, mine's kind of multi-dimensional, so I don't really just claim to be one thing. But It was like, so the only outlet I had to perfect my character was through my podcast, because my podcast allowed me to do it. They said, do what you want, man. And they had all the other shows that were on the network. They all had different characters. So I was like, here's my chance to play Halloween.
So you're picked up. So the audience knows your podcast, which Reaper's Underground, which I highly recommend. You have some very strong opinions.
Depends on the show which show you're watching. Because I do 3 different shows. So.
Oh, good God. What are you not doing?
I don't know. I'm a podcaster, musician, father, husband, whole 9 yards. Own my own business.
Now, are you booking?
What's that?
Are you booking?
I do limited booking right now. I kind of just to try it out and see how it goes kind of thing. I started booking for Grave Next Door.
Right. That's how you and I actually crossed paths with.
Yes.
By the way, and not that I'm trying to kiss up to them, have you ever seen a band go from where they were to where they are that quick?
This day and age, besides myself, Pure Sonic Outcasts, Doomsday Rejects, there's been a handful of us that went from nothing, nobodies to suddenly everyone knows you. And it's because we're not afraid to promote online, because online plugs you all of us into thousands of people that didn't even know we existed.
And I'm also
a prime example of a band that does that very well.
Not only that, but they have definitely upped their game. My interview was a little harsh in places. And when I see the footage of them now, especially the guitar playing, it's gone like beyond a bunch of guys from the backwoods of Michigan to, oh no, people, they're serious. And they're playing a lot.
Yes.
They're playing a lot.
They're not afraid to go anywhere.
No, were you involved in them just driving from Michigan to Texas for that? I think they had a one-off show about a year ago.
No, at that point I wasn't involved with them. They had popped on a couple of my tour shows.
Okay.
And which is how I got to meet them in the first place. Back on the Black Flame tour. So I already knew that they were awesome because I got to see them play live in front of me. So it was kind of like after that whole thing, probably 3 to 4 months, they asked me, they said, hey, are you booking? And I'm like, well, I haven't been up to this point. I've just been kind of a PR A&R, but I'll give it my best shot with the connections I have, because I've toured and played with so many awesome bands throughout the East Coast, kind of sort of close to, Midwest. But I was like, okay, well, I can piggyback off of some shows that maybe they got, because you have to understand, even though they're a national touring band, states like these clubs they don't know them. They don't know any of us. So It's like when somebody tries to book something, and we're like, well, who the fuck are you?
Right.
And doors would just close. And I'm like, okay. So I just started booking them with bands that I either work with myself or I've known.
Is it getting better? Do you think our style is getting more recognition?
Big time, and very much so in the underground, which is why I started my underground podcast in the first place.
Right.
Because I felt that there's just such a wealth of talent
that
is not getting recognized.
And speaking of which, are you familiar with a little band called Acid King?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Billboard number 96. They broke the top 100.
That's awesome.
Unbelievable that that band especially. Much love, much respect, but we now part of our scene, one of the founders, now broke the Billboard top 100, and my money is they're gonna get into probably the lower 70s once we get them. So this is a good time to be involved.
It really is, and the only thing I can say is just don't stop pushing.
Yeah.
Just because you've had an article in, Decibel magazine or, this or that, it doesn't mean that everyone's, out there knows about you. You just gotta keep it up.
Keep up every day. Start as if you're nobody, and go. Yeah. I'm discovering that I'm eating a lot of my words as a reviewer now that I've done my YouTube channel. I'm like, oh, okay, dude. So, what brought us here? You have a new song.
Yep, and it's the last single that we're going to release before the actual EP comes out.
So, do you want to tell us about it first, or should we give it a listen?
Absolutely. It's kind of funny.
know.
I'm never too sure which way to go with that. You know what? I would rather y'all check it out first, and then I can fill in the blanks.
So just so everybody knows, I have heard the first 3 seconds. I had to convert it from MP4 to MP3.
Awesome.
But I have it in my deck in Riverside, so I can hit, hopefully, as long as I hit the right buttons. So I've heard the first 3 seconds. So what I do is I am reacting with a member of the band in real time. So, and if I don't like it, if I find, I'm not going to pretend. So it's a high risk move. But here's the thing.
And I really love being in the hot seat.
But here's the thing. This is Iron Serpent. So I'm kind of cheating. It's like, it can't suck because I know the DNA from which this comes. So, yeah, I'm taking an easy one here because, it's you. Okay, let's give this a shot. Okay. So Ahriman didn't have that doomy. It was like more blackened.
A little bit more blackened, yes.
So this is a bit more traditional. It reminds me a little bit of Trouble.
That is definitely a compliment.
It just has that until the vocals, not so much, but that's a high risk little that y'all are doing. How's that live? That little breakdown that you have there. That's tough. You don't speed up.
We have a multitude of influences that have really kind of gone into this project. So I think, between like Corrosion of Conformity and the band Down, we kind of picked up a lot on like Pepper Keenan type stuff and Kurt Weinstead. So
a few of the names, but this is seriously, I'm loving this. So plus it doesn't go where I expected to. Nice way to subvert some expectations there. You guys are always good for that. Back to it.
Is this all you've learned? Now a shell of a man. What have I done? Why have you failed me? Why must I suffer? I
so that vocal is raw. That's not processed very much.
No.
So, I mean, it literally sounds like he's right next to the band, maybe with a little bit of plexiglass. You've got, is there any artificial reverb on that at all? Anything?
On his growling kind of style, no. Really, the only effect that got on there was his clean vocals. It was just like a little bit of verb just to give it some, some
it's not much.
No, it really is not much. We wanted this to sound as raw as possible, kind of like almost going back to when Black Sabbath put out their first record. All of them played and sang all at the same time. So we were trying to give that more earthy, more organic kind of a sound to it.
The guitar sounds like that's coming through an amp.
Yeah.
No sim?
Nope.
Couple mics, boom. So I'm just really shocked on the vocals because I cannot think of too many bands that are doing that. And so when we hear him go to the more harsher vocal, that we're hearing his throat do the actual thing.
Kind of like how Phil Anselmo did it on Down's first record. Everybody knows that tale about how he recorded it on such a small little 4-track in his living room. Well, it's almost like Slinger was able to get that, pinpointed.
That's ballsy, y'all, because most people aren't going to put out raw stuff like that, right?
Exactly. And, as musicians, that's one of the things, we've even talked about it on one of my shows, how sometimes albums get so overproduced that when they go to do it live, they can't reproduce it.
So your ear, it's like old Caius. If you can't play it live, there's no point of doing it.
Yes.
I think Josh said, if you can't play it sitting on your steps on your porch, then why play it? I'm really impressed by the balls of that. And second, how really good it sounds. This isn't Iggy and the Stooges raw power. It's like, oh God, it's not Lou Reed's, what was that, metallic music, machine music.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost hard to listen. I love it now. Now it's a classic. At the time, no. This is. I loved you guys before this, but I love what you're doing now. Did you play? So is the band actually live, or did you do the bass then the guitar?
Actually, yeah. I mean, that was just it. The guitar and the drums got recorded at the same time.
Outstanding.
With no layering. So it was just me. Like, you'll see this in the lyric video that's coming out in about a week. There are scenes, video footage of Slinger and myself doing this in the studio that my wife at the time, just happened to capture it. And we wanted to put that in there to kind of tell this tale. We ended up having her put her part on after everything was said and done.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Really, I'm really enjoying the hell out of this. This is good. I love. So the fact there are no layers lets me hear the layers. There's another band from Great Britain, Godless Sons, who I just love. They take a similar approach. It's them, and I just love hearing them. So anyway, I could talk our ears off. I'm sure everybody wants me to get back to the music. So
by all means,
You show me the way, and now I'm left, lost in the woods of doom. Why have you failed me? Why must I suffer? I did what I thought was right. Now
said
sorry.
something. No, this is why we're here. I'll back it up again. We'll do it again. You love this part, don't you?
Any kind of the art of the breakdown, when you suddenly just you just drop the bottom out and it's just hammering you. You have no, choice but to just do one of these things.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to back up a bit. I'm
My bad.
If anybody clicks off at this point, then heck with them. I love that.
Yep, we did something that nobody ever does, and that's let a bass player solo.
I loved it. It almost sounded fretless and like she's using flat wound strings. That was just an old school tone. No distortion, no overdrive, no effect. There's no flange, no chorus.
Nope.
I'm sorry. There's only one other guy I know, and I keep meaning to do a review. He calls it's a duo called Breath.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big fan.
Oh, the cojones on that guy. He covers nothing up.
Nope.
It's in the same vein as Ohm and Alcis Narrows, but it has that awkwardness that a good bass player should have. You know what I mean?
I call it the School of Geezer Butler.
That was definitely, but without the overdrive, without doubling, that is so far removed from Ahriman in a lot of ways. To me, as a listener, how do they connect for you? Because obviously, it's part of an overreaching theme, right?
The what kind of what connection?
Yeah. So? Is there a connection? Like they sound very different, right? Would you agree with that in style and approach and even recording?
Yeah, definitely.
So, is this one of those where we're just going to have to hear the EP to hear the story and how it evolves?
Every song on the EP has a different story. Because before in Black Tar Superstar, I was the primary lyricist.
Okay.
But obviously I wasn't the singer. But the first one, Ahriman, I wrote. Now this one was written by Slinger. He did the ones for this, and it kind of tells the tale of what it would be like. Let's say you're this young, Viking out in the Scandinavia, and you feel like your gods have turned their back on you because you've come into all this misfortune. Are you no longer in their good graces? Because, each one of us in the band are heathens, so we have this, universally. But there is kind of like two stories going on there because we do kind of border on fantasy, but how fantasy and real life are like this. So the song really does represent we were at the top of our fucking game, totally just kicking ass everywhere we went. We did this great tour, and then they kicked me out, and like Slinger felt like a huge piece of his life left when they decided to let me go, just because they didn't want to do what we were doing anymore and just be their own thing, so it's kind of like this is all loss. But by the end, as that hammer gets dropped, that's us getting back up, suiting up our armor, got our shields, our broadswords, and we're ready to fight again.
Man, that's awesome. That is awesome, and I hope everybody that hears this EP also hears this, because so he took it and turned it into a mythological metaphor.
Very much so.
And handed the power over to the universe.
Yep.
Found that faith. I didn't hear the corrosion of conformity until we did that last pause. And it's the last phrase. I went, oh, that is absolutely, I heard that moment and it kind of gave me chills. Awesome. So this is really awesome stuff. When does the full EP release?
We are looking at beginning of June. We're kind of in the hands of the universe here at the moment with the artwork, because it's commissioned. We're not just throwing it together, and that's something we've always done.
You didn't use AI to generate your cover, or
nope, hell no.
No stock photos.
No.
So, who's now? Are you under a label?
We are Kingside Records, which
Kingside, outstanding.
Which it's the label that we were on as Black Tar Superstar 2, which is why I'm like we were blown away that they would even be interested in our stuff now, because it's so different. But that's what we wanted. We didn't want everyone to go, oh, this is just Black Tar Superstar all over again. It's really not.
Okay.
You put the Black Flame and the Sacred EP next to each other. They're two different records.
So is this the first time that I'm assuming that you're pretty much the producer?
Both Slinger and I both are. It's self-produced. It's a joined effort. We have kind of like a, dare I say it, we have a very Vinnie Dime kind of relationship when it comes to writing. It's guitar and drums. That's like, once that's solidified, everything else falls into place.
Yeah, but let's give Mischief's doing some mischief in there.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong now.
The girl, she can play. What I love about the bass is the way it's recorded. Yes. I just love hearing. Someday, when we do a part 2, would love to have her on here.
Oh, for sure.
As a bass player.
Yes.
So is the bass direct into the board, or is that also through an amp?
That was actually direct into the board.
Yeah, and again, that's a lot of times how that's done. It still has that very organic. It still comes into the board. Doesn't mean the same thing it did in 1986.
Absolutely, and she's not a big fan of a lot of different pedal things. She likes the more raw sound of it. A lot of bass players nowadays, they use a lot of distortion. Whether they're kind of like distortion and then wah-wah in some cases.
Oh,
so she, when she listened to what we had, just the raw drum track and the guitar, she was like, let's just totally fucking Black Sabbath this thing. I said, hell yeah, let's try it. Let's hear it. Because, that's my favorite fucking band.
I hadn't noticed. So, but who else? So we've got Black Sabbath down, Corrosion of Conformity. Who else would be your icons in metal?
Typo Negative, Neurosis. We are big fans of Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. Candlemass is huge with us.
That end had a little bit of that that early Swedish Candlemass vibe. I still think so. The song has distinct, parts in it.
Yes.
And I'm going to enjoy listening to it and probably writing it up and going, hey, you're obviously fans of the genre, but you don't sound like any of them. Let's make it clear. There's nothing derivative in what you're doing. This is pretty original stuff. Is this the first time that you... Is this the first time you've had this amount of creative control?
No.
You can't drop. So when else have you? So you've been able to steer the ship pretty much when you want.
Yeah, Slinger and I, we were always bringing up new ideas, not just musically, but even artistically, marketing wise. And we were always told no, because our bassist and lead vocalist in the previous band had just some reservations. And that was fine. We were cool with that, but it's like it feels really good, especially for Slinger, because he comes up with these just amazing riffs. And, we talk about it. I listen to it. He sends me them. And I'm just like, yeah, man, this is just really solid, very chunky. I always call it rifflicious.
I love that.
Shoot, let's explore it. Let's do it. Before it was just like, well, that's really good, but doesn't really fit with the other stuff, kind of thing. It's like we do have a solid sound going throughout the whole EP. I think the tracks work very well together, but we do, like you said, take some chances here and there to let certain creativity come out. And it's it's like reading a book, like a really good novel. Shoot, if you're a D&D player, you'll really love it.
Okay. So you're doing an EP, right? So have you? So what else? So I want to pick you around, have you here, Wally, because you're busy. So I'm lucky that I got you here. Are you already setting your sights on the next recording and what you're gonna do?
We've definitely talked about it because with this EP, we have 3 solid songs and 2 other ones written, but they haven't been recorded yet. So I'm actually going in 2 weeks back to the same studio, which is the Rec Room studio. I don't know if you're familiar with the Buzz Bin. They created a studio that's part of the business, which they had in Canton, but now since they've moved to Akron, it's in Akron now. So we were able to get the same producer, which means we can literally get the same sound. And we're going to do it the same way. It took us a minute because, like I said, these are rescued tracks. There were 2 other ones, but we can't use them. So
okay.
Instead, we started sending back and forth, the riffs, me playing to him. I would record myself, on video playing it, send it back to him, say, yeah, either yay or nay, or try it this way or try it that way. So I have to go back and record it. And then it'll be done.
This is exciting. You're going to let me know when things are coming, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm definitely not shy. I'm letting people know.
What influences, if any, do you have outside of metal? Because there's a little bit more breathing in here than just being a slave to, a particular style. So what else do you listen to? What are you into other than metal?
For me, I love a lot of old blues. I'm a huge jazz fan as well. And I also listen to a lot of orchestral music, too. I was classically trained as a symphonic drummer. And in college, I was very, very much... My degree was jazz drumming. So I kind of took my love of both of those and put it into my metal drumming to create something different. So many of these drummers in the genre are one-dimensional. They're just balls to the wall the whole time. There's a few, don't get me wrong, that, you know, kind of bring the intensity down, then bring it back up. So there's a little bit of, you know, crescendo, decrescendo. But there's a lot of subtleties that you can put in there, you know, especially with cymbals. I'm very big on cymbal work. So that's kind of what makes it different.
One of my absolute favorite bands that started, so they're starting to finally get credit, little band called Celtic Frost. And as I remember, I think it was Stephen Priestley, was classically, he had never been in a metal band in his life. And his drumming was unlike anything else going on, and before Absolutely. Or since. The sense of disciplined restraint, the sense of timing as a function of supporting, building tension, letting tension go, rather than, no disrespect. Yeah, and we'll do it. In fact, Anthrax is an example of drumming I can't stand. No disrespect to Anthrax, but it never stops.
Yeah. Which is weird that they were considered one of the big four in thrash, but...
Well, they are. But okay. When I've caught your podcast, you've been commenting on whether somebody is real metal or fake metal.
Oh.
A little bit. So I'm going to go over a few bands, and I want to see what your unvarnished reaction is.
Sure.
Testament.
Love them. I have been a fan of theirs since I was a teenager, which would be, I'm dating myself here, so right around, you know, when they started. I've always been a fan of Chuck Billy. I've always enjoyed his vocals. And the drummer, I forget his first name, but his last name was Tempesta. Right. I really enjoyed his drumming with them. I really loved those albums. They were very solid before he went over to Rob Zombie. And then one of my all-time favorites, Gene Hoglan, came in on some recent stuff they did, and I was like, you are back, you are better than ever, you are just killing it. In my opinion, Testament, an excellent example of what real fucking metal is. I love it.
I can be controversial. I try not to be, because my thing is we're one family, many tribes.
Absolutely.
But thrash is something that always left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. Testament to me was always beyond thrash. That they went, especially with their guitar player, he's a pretty good guy. I mean, they were so informed musically, and everything about Testament. Well, even their bad stuff is awesome. So, Testament. Okay. Motley Crue. No, don't be shy.
Oh, yeah, you've seen my podcast, so I'm definitely not shy. Okay, when I came to them, or back in the '80s, when I was a kid, and I was a big fan of metal. Too Fast for Love, I really liked. Mm-hmm. Very much a party kind of atmosphere. Just really good songwriting, very catchy riffs. Vince could sing.
No doubt.
At that point. And I even followed them into Shout at the Devil. Shout at the Devil, I mean, it's no secret. They just tried to capitalize on the Satanic Panic, and they sold a lot of records. There's a lot of really good songs on that record. The next one, Theater of Pain, I just didn't feel was as strong as their first two efforts. Kind of lost that party atmosphere a little bit. And then, of course, Girls, Girls, Girls. I'm just like, what are we doing here? You know, at that point, they were just kind of known as, cock rock. Not the Motley Crue I knew. I know that they were changing with the times, and no more teased hair and all the makeup and, stuff like that.
I felt like they went from trendsetters to trend followers.
It seemed that way until Dr. Feelgood. I really thought that was a decent record. For the most part. There's some songs I could take it or leave it. It wasn't one of those records I could go from beginning to end and always do it that way. I was finding myself just like this track, that track. They seemed a little heavier. And then when Vince left the band, and I know all the true, Motley Crue fans out there didn't like these records, but John Corabi came in and really brought something so new to them, and I loved it. There was so much attitude.
You have surprised me, sir. You have absolutely surprised me. Not only, so very nuanced, very informed. Okay. Let me throw this one at you.
Sure.
Kiss. I'm going to push you hard here.
Oh, I know. Their late 70s stuff, their 70s records, minus things got so weird. Detroit Rock City was great, but it's like they shed so much of what they were known for first when disco got big, and then suddenly they started making records that were more disco driven. I Was Made for Loving You is a prime example.
I love that song, by the way.
It's a great song.
I love that song.
It's very catchy. And then they went off and did all their own solo records, which I thought was garbage.
They were.
I don't know why they wanted to do that. I think they were just so super starstruck. Gene was in full swing with the marketing. He got Kiss on literally every damn thing you could buy at the store. And
lunch boxes and yeah.
And that was like no one's ever seen that.
Was Kiss heavy metal?
They did it.
Do you think they were ever heavy metal?
Honestly, in the beginning, no. They were great hard rock. But they had a couple of albums that I would definitely say were more heavy metal than they had ever been. Psycho Circus was really good. That, the album where they did Lick It Up, and that was just cock rock. Come on.
It was. Okay.
So, that's how I feel.
I will never underestimate how much you know. One final one. Final one. Metallica.
Oh, shit. Oh, man. That's one of the biggest sore spots with so many of us. Those first 4 records were just amazing. Although on Injustice for All, which, poor Cliffy, man, he was the heart and soul of that band. Between him and James Hetfield, I think when Cliff died, James changed so much. Because, you always saw that interview that they did during Kill 'Em All into Ride the Lightning, where they're like, oh, fuck the mainstream, all these fame assholes and all that. We're not about that. Suddenly, he's out of the picture, and they really screwed Jason Newsted on the Injustice for All record, because you could barely hear him. You could barely hear him play, and it's been talked about. Kirk Hammett even came out, I think he's the most truthful one, basically said, we hazed him, we turned him all the way down. That's what it was. And Lars was just really controlling literally everything. Yeah. And then they sold their souls to the wrong guy named Bob Rock. Because when the Black Album came out, it was a new Metallica that we had never heard before, never thought we would hear. They gave us such a amazing run up to this point. And suddenly, they checked in their metal card, and it just kept going down.
Very well put. I've actually changed my opinion towards Metallica lately. because they literally did become the biggest band on the planet.
They did, but how can you call
For-
it metal?
I don't. Okay, here's the most controversial thing. I don't think any of their shit was heavy metal. And I'll tell you why. Master of Puppets, I know that they slowed it down. They recorded it at one speed, put it at the next. To me, it was kind of lightweight. It was interesting. But about 1 week after I heard Master of Puppets, which blew my mind, I heard a Celtic Frost Into the Pandemonium. And I felt like I was at a crossroads and I knew which way I had to go. So I've been an asshole. I've been an asshole towards Metallica for 30 years. And I was wrong. I was wrong. Because I think what Metallica's done is, I can't consider it heavy metal, but they have done more for heavy metal. When you look at the bands that they aggressively got to tour with them, from Soundgarden, they gave Soundgarden a pretty big break. Faith No More. I think so I like James. I like Lars. I like Kirk. I do. I like these guys, as flawed as they are. Not a fan of Metallica, but I'm a fan of the guys. And they are kind of stand-up humans. But I knew that I'd get you on that one. So Metallica is a sore subject for a lot of people and for both ways. But nobody introduced more people to metal than Metallica, Kiss,
I can appreciate that.
Motley Crue. And then bands like you get to show them the real stuff.
This is true. And we're talking about a genre that has only been really popular now for probably, I'd say, the last 10 years.
Which genre specific? You mean the stoner doom side?
Doom, stoner, psych, heavy psych,
Yeah, baby.
You know what I mean? Or I guess some people call it occult rock and, stuff like that. It's Black Sabbath. I always have to come back to them because, they gave us some records. Now, not all of them, because obviously we all have our opinions on some of those albums, but they left us with songs that really shaped so many of, you see it on all these different bands, social medias, the Iomi worship. It's just everywhere. And there's a reason. It's just Riff. He was kind of like the godfather of the riff. So, now that they've stepped down, it's like we're picking up that torch and carrying it into the future. And I just think it's exciting.
So we're the ones going into the void.
Exactly.
Reaper,
I just don't understand, though, why so many band names, though, borrow from each other.
Oh, I love
Mammoth
that.
everywhere. You see Acid everywhere. You see
Goat.
or
Goat. I make fun in almost every article, goat. It's hard to, and then Wizard.
Wizard is
like you said,
way too much.
Mammoth. Well, that's why I love Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard. Love that name. Love that band. Reaper, believe it or not, we have plumb near run out of time because you got this little thing you're doing, right?
Yes. Tonight I have a indie horror director who's put out a pretty good film. So that's how the underground works. Just to let everybody know out there, I don't just do bands. I do. I mean, it's obviously my first love, and that's why I started my podcast in the first place. But it's also to kind of spotlight all forms of art that is underground. And the indie horror circuit, if Terrifier 2 didn't prove it already, that there's some damn good movie making going on in independent.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Dude, nothing but... Oh, yeah. Well, even if I can't right away, I can always find the podcast where?
Yes. on Reapers Underground on Facebook or Reapers Underground YouTube channel, as well as Three Witches Entertainment Facebook and YouTube channel.
So you're pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
So, brother, this has been so much fun. I can't believe it's been an hour. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you really want to get across to the clean and sober dozens and dozens of people watching?
I love the rocket reference there. That was badass.
Thanks.
Here's what it is. If somebody tells you can't do it, or it's silly, or it's stupid, follow your dreams. Don't stop. Do your own thing. Go against the grain. If it makes you feel good, somebody's going to notice, and a lot of somebodies are going to notice. And, we're all good at our own thing. Don't be afraid to be spooky. Don't be afraid to be weird. Be yourself for you. Screw everybody else.
Sir, you are one of the best ambassadors for the scene that I've met and talked to in a while. Big luck with the EP. I know that, I'm looking forward to hearing it, and I'll be pumping it pretty hard. And I thank you for everything you've done for this channel.
Thank you.
It has just been an honor and a pleasure. And be careful out there. There's a lot of demons, and you might be bringing a few. You might meet Ahriman face to face. I got a million more questions to ask, but I got to let it go. Again, thank you, brother.
I would love to come back anytime. Much
Okay.
love.
See you, my friend. Thank you. Bye.